problem with political ads, potentially, is the negativity of ads. And the ads are increasingly negative. I mean, it's just skyrocketed. And part of the problem is that outside groups tend to run really, really negative ads, okay? So when candidates run political ads, they can be negative, and they often are negative, but they do try to keep it within some bounds. They don't try to go too far. With outside groups, when they run political ads, they can go really far because they don't have to worry about backlash. So what is the problem with campaign ads? I think the problem is negativity. It can increase cynicism, and there's some indication that it might increase disengagement with politics, but that's controversial. There's research on both sides of the issue. But negativity does increase cynicism, and people just get really upset. It has to be allowed, you know, because it's out there. And then with news, I think the real problem is bias. When there's ideological bias in the news, that's a horrible problem.
Well, I would say the main ethical issue is dishonesty. That, you know, we've seen a large increase in the number of ads that deal with not the individual running the ads views, but the other person's views. And so the question is whether that individual will be presented in a fair and honest light, or whether things will be twisted. I mean, obviously, it's not unethical to put that person in a bad light, to emphasize things that you think, you know, are going to make it less likely for that individual to be elected. But somewhere there's a line, and the reason we're having this conversation, I suppose, is because it's difficult to know where that line is, that goes beyond just putting the person in a bad light and distorting what that person is in a way that's not honest.
I consider it unethical when you push it too far so that it becomes as close to a lie as it can be. On the other hand, negative ads are here. They're here to stay. It's a freedom of speech issue, and negative ads aren't that bad. People learn a ton from negative ads. In fact, we found that they learn more from negative ads than positive ads. So people learn a lot of political information, and that's a good thing. I mean, we need people to learn information and to be engaged in the political system.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I go back to the notion of honesty. That an ethical ad would be one that's true. And I mean, there are lots of ways to. I mean, if you believe that my positions are not appropriate for the voters of Nebraska or wherever it might be, then you can just say that. Look, so, you know, he supports this, and you know, is this something you want? Do you really? Is that the kind of politician you want to have in office? There's nothing wrong with that. I really don't mind negative ads, you know, where you're comparing what you are with the other person. In fact, I react kind of strongly to positive ads that are just so saccharine, you know. I mean, they're holding babies and the American flag in the background, and it's patriotic as the next guy, but, you know, there's no information in those ads at all. They're useless, except to say, you know, I'm a wonderful person. So I'm a little bit unusual, I think, in that regard. A lot of people are upset about negative ads, and I think negative ads done properly can really clarify the differences between candidates. When they go into, like, you know, personality traits and, you know, other things that might not be directly relevant to what we want in a politician, then I think that's a problem. So, but if they stick to the issues, say, here's what he believes, here's what I believe, you decide. That, to me, is what politics is all about. I would say not important. I mean, I think that may have been the case when we only had a couple of news outlets years ago, and it was just the networks, really, and a couple of major newspapers. But, you know, life changes, so now we've got sources that are everywhere. And I think what we have to count on these days is that the accumulation of information provided by these various outlets will balance out, and the truth will eventually be apparent.